Making talk radio great again. It's The War Room with Owen Schroyer.
Well, the Democrat Party is filled with fake Indians and fake cowboys. We're going to be talking about the fake Indian Elizabeth Warren on the other side with a real Indian, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. And we are now joined by Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who is putting forth one of the much-needed battles to drain the swamp, going up against Elizabeth Warren. He coined the phrase, the real Indian against the fake Indian. Good to be back with you, Dr. Shiva.
Hey, great to be here, Owen. How are you?
I'm doing grand. I know that you're always busy. You're covering a litany of things out there in Massachusetts. I'm not sure where you want to start today. I'm going to leave it up to you.
I think the first area we want to start, probably, Owen, is how our campaign is growing explosively. You know, we just filed our FEC filings. I personally donated close to about $1.1 million to our campaign, and we have about $75K in cash. But the important thing is the mainstream media in Boston, the Herald and the Globe, the Herald completely left us out of the reporting. They reported Dirty Deal and this other guy called Old Man Kingston, who put in $3 million, a never Trumper and a fake Trumper, but they completely left us out. And their Boston Globe was questioning us why we donated $1.1 million to my own campaign. Meanwhile,
didn't they already try to say that you weren't even actually running? They tried to run fake news saying that you hadn't even registered to run?
Exactly. First they said we didn't register to run. And it's frankly interesting because when people ignore you, it shows at the strength of your campaign. So what's happening for us, Owen, is we're building our ground campaign very strongly. But the key points, Owen, is our message is hitting really strong. In the western part of the state and among what we call sort of the earthy, crunchy granola people who typically think they're supposed to support Warren, we've been going to the Whole Foods, we've been going to those places and distributing a very nice business card, which basically says Shiva for Senate, and below that it says real food is real medicine, buy fresh, buy local, and clean food is organic and GMO. On the flip side of the card, it's got a picture of the devil with two horns, one side being the Democrats, the other side being the Republicans. And below that, it says, both parties have supported Monsanto, which has poisoned us. Elizabeth Warren voted for the Monsanto Protection Act. And she also screwed over Bernie by opposing the GMO labeling bill, which would have afforded all citizens clear labeling. So that message is completely eviscerating both the establishment, Democrats and Republicans, but it's also opening up a huge opportunity among independents who thought Elizabeth Warren was their fighter, the fake Indian, and saying, wait a minute, here's Shiva, the real Indian. He's the one who's fought Monsanto. He's used his science to expose him, and we're winning a lot of those people over. What's fascinating with that, Owen, is a few days ago, we were distributing our flyers at one of the Whole Foods in Framingham, and the management of Whole Foods came out, and they called the cops on us. 3 squad cars, police showed up, and we had fortunately distributed close to 1,000 flyers. And the reality was we're eviscerating Warren. Remember, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, who owns Washington Post, owns Amazon Prime, which, by the way, he was supporting Weinstein's actions implicitly and in some ways explicitly.
Yeah, and now actually Amazon studios are having their own problems with sexual assault. Go ahead.
Exactly. So here you have Bezos, who's basically trying to industrialize, in some ways, food production. Right. So what's fascinating about food is that it's one of those things. It exposes the fact that we need to actually have food local, because the more you consolidate it, the more you make it big food, whether it be Amazon or big agrobiotech, it's basically going to create less and less nutritious food. Food is one of those things that exposes that it has to be decentralized. It has to be local, because that's where we get, quote unquote, real food. And here's Amazon talking with their purchase of Whole Foods. They want to deliver real food when they really want to deliver us fake food. So we're at a very interesting point, and we've spoken about this before, Owen, the notion of the people who are the establishment, which is easy to point out, the change agents like myself, like a lot of the stuff you guys do on your show, like President Trump, and then you have the emergence of the insidious group of what I call the not so obvious establishment, be it the fake Trumpers, the fake fighters like Warren. And I think we're at this important point where citizens of this world and in the United States need to be able to distinguish that. In our campaign, that's what we're going after. We're not going just after the establishment, but we're going after what I call the not so obvious establishment. And that's who we need to expose. We have Dirty Deal, as we know. We've exposed him, fake handshake with Trump. saying was a mass Trump co-chair. Now the Republican establishment is throwing a guy called Old Man Kingston and Beth Lindstrom. All of these people are part of the establishment. Lindstrom and Kingston are easy to see, but Dirty Deal is who we need to expose, clearly because he's confusing the blue-collar workers in Massachusetts. But the great thing is people are smart. People are recognizing that our campaign is explosively growing. The real health piece, the real jobs piece in the middle of Massachusetts, where we're really talking about the fact that in spite of these career politicians, we have a 17-to-1 job deficiency, meaning for every 17 skilled job openings, only one person is skilled. And then finally, Owen, one of the big things we're talking about is that these two parties have created their own battleground of discourse, right? They talk about abortion, they talk about transgender issues, they talk about taxes. So they limit the discourse. They don't really want to talk about the real issues, the fact that we don't have enough skilled people. They don't want to talk about the real issues that we're destroying the food supply. These are the real issues that everyday people care about. What they want to do is consistently focus a dialogue on 2 or 3 issues and then divide people. Oh, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a white supremacist, you're not, you're for blacks, you're for whites. And that's how they divide and rule. And what we're doing is saying, look, let's really talk about real issues. Monsanto is destroying the public food supply. Elizabeth Warren voted for that. And the mainstream media does not want to talk about that because for years they've been backing up Monsanto, backing up the academics who basically get away with pay-to-play science. We're talking about the fact we're not prepared for the 21st century because a bunch of moronic career politicians like monkeys have been switching off raise taxes, lower taxes. Of course we need lower taxes. But the reality is we don't have enough skilled labor. And finally, when it comes to healthcare, we're talking about Obamacare is really about big insurance. Let's not dilly-dally with this stuff. It should be completely repealed. We need to unleash more doctors. We need to have preventative health care. So, people are smart, and so it's fascinating. The establishment does not know what to do with us, and even their attempt to ignore us, they don't know how to get away with that.
Yeah, I'm just going with the liberal think here. I mean, if you don't vote for Shiva Ayyadurai, you're obviously a white supremacist. So, I mean, that's just what a liberal would say. But it's amazing because, like you said, they try to create these fault lines. They try to create these fractures in politics, and they want to say, okay, if you're a Democrat or liberal, you fall here, or if you're a Republican or conservative, you fall here. And what you're kind of doing here, and I think that you would agree this probably has a lot to do with your campaign growing so much on the grassroots level, is you've attacked an issue that the establishment says and the media says is exclusive to liberals. Wait a second. A conservative cares about the food supply. A conservative cares about the GMOs. A conservative is exposing Monsanto and the pay for play between the FDA and Monsanto and how those two groups are basically intertwined. It's like I feel like there's an awakening process for these people. Like, oh, wow, my mindset just kind of got shattered. My paradigm got shattered because this is a man who claims to be a conservative, but he agrees with me on this issue.
Yeah, and I think that, one of the things is, as you know, I come from a background of Eastern spirituality, which is my namesake, is the deity in the Hindu archetype is known as the destroyer, ignorance. He carries with himself the trident, which is about piercing darkness, which is letting the light in. That's why our campaign is light, which is basically telling people, look, you have the intellect and the ability to think your own bigger things. And what the mainstream media, the mainstream advertisers, which is all based on consumer marketing from this guy, Edward Burns, is about nice. The reality is people actually like the kinds of stuff you guys do, long-form video. They like to explore and understand things. And we want to bring that kind of thinking to everyone, which is what people want. The Republicans and Democrats want to dumb down everything because they want to keep people stupid. And the reality is people have the skills to really understand this in a holistic way. Look at Massachusetts. Abortion is not the defining issue. You have all of these Irish Catholics who still are Democrats. All
right, let's pause it right there. We got to go to a break. We're going to be right back with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai on the other side, the real Indian going against the fake Indian, Elizabeth Warren. A candidate that's not a career politician, that can fund his own campaign, that looks for funding from the grassroots, that doesn't take big dollars from big donors, and actually goes out on the streets with the people. Wow, no wonder the establishment is so afraid. No wonder Elizabeth Warren is so afraid. Our guest is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, Shiva4Senate.com. He's the real Indian going against the fake Indian. It's just, I can't believe it. The cops have you, you get called the cops because you're out there protesting GMOs at Whole Foods where they're supposed to be against the GMOs. It's Whole Foods. What?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Owen, if you think about it, with Amazon's purchase of Whole Foods, they want to consolidate even the distribution of food, right? And it's going to be the industrialization of organic food. You see, just because a piece of quote unquote organic food comes from Turkey to Massachusetts doesn't make it good food. One of the great areas your viewers should think about is, we heard salmon is a good food, right? Here's a great example from a science standpoint. Wild salmon is anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory means it's anti-cancerous. Farm-raised salmon, which can come from anywhere in the world, it's salmon, but it actually causes inflammation as much as a bowl of French fries can do. And this just came out in recent research. So we're at a point in food, it's not about just a labeling it's organic, by say it's how it's done and the fact that it has to be local. Amazon wants to get really efficient at moving food from one point to another. But efficiency does not mean high quality or it's good for you. So I think the tip of our spear of our campaign is becoming health and food, which affects every person in this country. So you can see in the picture that you're showing here, we're distributing flyers talking about real food at a company that claims they want real food, and the management calls out the cops on us. Why? Because we're actually exposing the duplicity of the liberals, Elizabeth Warren, who claims that she's a fighter, when the real fighter is Shiva for Senate on the ground. And so the exposition of that is awesome. At the same time, we're also seeing the fact that the mainstream media, the Boston Globe and the Herald, want a bunch of doofuses to run against Warren. So that's why they're promoting Dirty Deal, Old Man Kingston, this woman who ran a lottery. That's her claim to fame. Beth Lindstrom, the newest person to enter, and she's claiming she's an outsider when she's so inside that she's trying to convince people she's on the outside. But they cannot lose the fact that our following on Twitter, on social media, has doubled. We have the most number of social media followers. We do a tweet, they go viral. When we did a periscope of the events that took place at Amazon, it went viral all over the internet. So that's the power that we're building. And this is not just a Massachusetts campaign. This is a national campaign across the United States. And what's really, really important now is for people to recognize the fake Trumpers, the fake deals, the dirty deals, and the people who are not the true activists on the ground. So I think this is going to be a very historic campaign, Owen. The other piece is, we are deploying 21st century technology. In our FEC filings, we're deploying some very powerful technology to our team leaders all across Massachusetts, which actually help them organize people. So we're running this using innovation, which is what I've been about all my life. We're using our own sweat, and we're going, as you said, on the ground. This is not what these career politicians do. They wait until next September, they take a bunch of ads, they bring in celebrities, and that's their model of what they think an election is, to bamboozle the public. But we're giving them something completely different, and I think the Massachusetts public in particular, which is fundamentally independent, is going to really, really appreciate what we're doing.
Now, you just mentioned how you're innovating new technology into some of the stuff that you're doing. This is coming a couple months late, but you did just celebrate a great email anniversary. You are the inventor of email. You just celebrated, what was that, the 20th year anniversary or something?
Yeah, it's actually it was invented in 1978. So officially, I got the copyright in 1982. So it would have been the 35th official anniversary, but it's almost been, 38 years. But yeah, I invented email as a 14-year-old kid, which was a system as we know it today. It went into the Smithsonian. I hold the first U.S. copyright for it. I wrote the 50,000 lines of code incorporating all those features, and I called it email. But, this is what, I consider myself, basically a high-tech blue-collar worker. My parents worked in factories. MIT fundamentally is a high-tech, vo-tech school. The building I have, I'm constantly working on it. I work on my own, things to build things. Politicians don't do that. They don't know how to build anything. They don't know how to build software. They don't know anything about technology. They don't even know how to fix their cars. So I think the fundamental
Well, now, hold
thing
on a second. Elizabeth Warren built a nice fake resume to get a scholarship into college. She built that resume. She put she was an Indian on there when she wasn't. Come on, give her credit for building that.
Yeah, they're very good at building that kind of stuff. They're very good at building, their own fraudulent appearances of who they are. That's
like
why
Whole Foods.
Like Whole Foods. Whole Foods basically is building their brand equity on organic, real food. When you really look at it, Whole Foods and Stonyfield Yogurt, led by this guy Hirschberg, they actually screwed over the real GMO labeling bill. The real GMO labeling bill should have been overt, completely clear for old people, young people to know something was GMO labeled. They screwed over the labeling, so it becomes a scanner code, so you have to have a smartphone to even understand there's GMO labeling. Elizabeth Warren was part of that, and all of these guys who claim to be organic aren't. So basically we have the fake organic people, we have the fake Trumpers, the fake fighters. And our campaign is going to expose all of that so we can really have a movement in this country. Because when we break with the Democrats and when we break with the Republicans, that's when change takes place. That's how civil rights took place. That's how women's rights took place. That's how any significant movement in this country has occurred. When we break with both of these ridiculous parties. And what we're noticing also on the ground, Owen, people are ready to break with this nonsense. And the establishment knows it. That's why they fear our campaign so much. People want to vote for an individual who has principles, integrity, and can stand for things. So I think anyone listening to this, don't vote by party line, because frankly, these parties are rigged systems. They basically exist to fill their own coffers and to basically fill their financial accounts and build brand equities for the inane politicians who want to get elected and then they want to get reelected. I'm not here to get elected or reelected. We're here to win. We're here to serve and then go back to the farm where you actually work for a living. That's why, only a real Indian can defeat the fake Indian.
And of course, you want to get in there, get in the Senate, and back Trump's agenda, which is so key. And I think what you just hit on is going to be experienced nationwide as the 2018 midterms start to roll around. But someone like Warren has been such a good doofus for the establishment, such a good doofus for the Democrat Party, and she's been there for so long. That's like an anchor for them. That's like a safety net for them. That's like somebody they just assume is going to be there. If they start losing some of these established doofuses of the Democrat Party and they start losing those seats, they're going to have no political pull anymore.
Exactly, and that's why the establishment throughout American history has relied, and when I mean establishment, the left and the right, the military-industrial complex, has relied on the left wing of the Democratic Party and the fake, now the fake Trumpers to manipulate the blue-collar people, to manipulate the masses, to keep them attached back to the establishment. And this is a phenomenon that's occurred throughout political history. You have the establishment, you have the change agents like myself, and then they get very sophisticated at using the fake Indians like Warren, the fake Trumpers.
That's right. They do anything to protect their system, folks. ShivaForSenate.com.